There are so many unanswered questions in the world around us.
It was extremely beautiful to be able to see what the fundamental constituents of the natural world are.
Three major questions I've always been interested in. Who am I, where did I come from, and why do I feel bad? And those three questions then have really dominated everything that I have done.
Scientific advances aren't easy. All of the laureates who have walked onto this stage have been passionately devoted to science. They love the process, even though the process of science invariably is 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or 2 steps back, or 3 steps back.
When I first gave lectures on it, it was pretty much ridiculed. It went against conventional wisdom.
That's what research is all about, accomplishing something that is unknown.
Sometimes probably the biggest satisfaction you get if you have some observation which you don't know how to interpret. And then you really start thinking you need to go to maybe different fields even to understand it better.
And the most fascinating, in fact, is that thinking about the smallest things links to thinking about the biggest things.
I think everybody wants to know what's out there. They look up at the stars at night and they wonder what's out there.
Curiosity. Curiosity. Passion. That's it. Passion to understand something and the curiosity. Nothing else.
I think one of the great things that the awards program does is it links the past of science to the future of science, and it allows us to see the great gains that have been made over time by building upon discovery after discovery.
Science is slow but magnificent, and the thing that emerges at the end is so much better than each individual contribution to what made it what it is.
Sometimes you can find time to do crazy stuff that might change the world.
Good evening and welcome to the 195th Franklin Institute Awards.
The Franklin Institute Awards pay tribute to America's original scientist, Benjamin Franklin, by honoring the greatest minds in science, engineering, and industry. I'm Chris Franklin, Chair of the Awards Corporate Committee.
And I'm Linda Halfier, Chair of the Friends Committee. Tonight, we welcome 8 laureates into the Franklin Institute family and celebrate the ways in which their groundbreaking work has shaped our present and our future.
And we pay tribute to the legacy of innovation at the Institute, a commitment to excellence carried forward every day by the Institute trustees and supporters, volunteers and staff. We, like so many of you gathered here tonight, believe in the work the Institute does to inspire a passion for learning about science and technology.
Your presence, along with all of the proceeds raised tonight, support comprehensive community and youth education programs, including those that brought more than 170,000 youth to the Institute in 2018, at little to no cost to them.
On behalf of the members of the Awards Corporate Committee, the Friends Committee, and all of the volunteers and supporters who make a night like tonight possible, thank you.
We also owe a great debt of gratitude to Bank of America, the presenting sponsor of the awards ceremony and dinner for a remarkable 17 years. It is now our great pleasure to introduce Jim Dever, Bank of America's Philadelphia Market President.
Thank you and good evening. It is a pleasure and an honor to welcome you to the 2019 Franklin Institute Awards ceremony and dinner. On behalf of Bank of America, I am delighted to welcome you to an evening like no other. Tonight, we will meet 8 exceptional individuals and learn about their achievements that have advanced our understanding of the world, connected people across the globe, and even saved lives. Celebrating its long tradition of honoring excellence is why Bank of America remains dedicated to the Franklin Institute Awards. This year's laureates live that word, dedication, each and every day. Whatever their field or focus, each of the 8 medalists has left an indelible mark on the world. 2019 is our 17th consecutive year partnering with the Franklin Institute on this iconic event. Like the Institute, Bank of America has a long history of working to give people the power to realize their dreams and positively shape communities. Along with other partners, We support the Franklin Institute tonight and throughout the year to bolster the vital learning and discovery that happens here each and every day. The Institute brings science and technology to life for people of all ages and provides thousands of students from the most under-resourced communities with unparalleled STEM learning opportunities. The Franklin Institute is one of the world's leading science centers. We at Bank of America are excited to see how the Institute will set the standard ahead of its 200th anniversary in 2024. For this reason, Bank of America is proud to partner with the Franklin Institute and serve as the presenting sponsor of the award ceremony through the bicentennial celebrations. On behalf of all of my Bank of America teammates, I thank you for being here tonight and offer our heartfelt congratulations to those being honored. Now, let's welcome the 2019 Franklin Institute laureates, escorted by their sponsors.
Jean E. Likens, escorted by sponsors Laura Turan and Robert Sanders. Eli Yablanovich, escorted by sponsors Afshin Dariush and Ahmad Hurfar. Marcia K. Johnson, escorted by sponsor Helene Intraub. John A. Rogers, escorted by sponsor Judith Todd. Francis H. Arnold, escorted by sponsor Roger Gray. John J. Hopfield, escorted by sponsor Peter Collins. Indra K. Nui, escorted by sponsor Michael Yusin. James P. Allison, escorted by sponsor Brad Jameson. And introducing Chair of the Franklin Institute Board of Trustees, Don Morell, and the Franklin Institute President and CEO, Larry Dubinsky. And our Master of Ceremonies, the Franklin Institute's Chief Astronomer, Derek Pitts.
Good evening, and welcome to the Franklin Institute Awards. It's a pleasure to be serving as your Master of Ceremonies as we celebrate the visionary work of this year's 8 laureates. One of the things I enjoy most about the Franklin Institute Awards is the glimpse it offers behind the achievements and the accolades of our laureates insights into the moments when each of these brilliant minds was grabbed hold of by an idea, a moment, or an experience. Such experiences are one of the reasons I've been so grateful to call the Franklin Institute my home for the last 4 decades. Countless times, thank you. Countless times I've been approached by someone who says, "You don't know who I am, but," and proceeds to tell me about an experience they had at the Institute, an experience in an exhibit, or with an Institute educator that changed the course of their life. What we do here at the Institute is hard to quantify. What metric measures inspiring moments? How do you count the sparks of curiosity? For me, I look to these encounters. Tonight you'll hear much about what lies ahead for the Institute, our efforts to reshape our building, and our exhibitions to answer the call of an age that demands flexibility and relevancy. The changes are bold, and they are well suited for the celebration of 200 years as both a Philadelphia landmark and a global leader in the world of science centers. If there's one thing I've learned in my years at the Institute, however, it is that this place has a personality all its own. That personality does change. Yes, it must change with the passage of time. Still, in 40 years, the one thing that has never changed is the people who approach me and begin a conversation with, "You don't know who I am, but." That, I believe, is the heart of the Institute's personality. That awe-inspiring moment, the spark of curiosity. That's why generation after generation flock to this building, because the Institute never stops working to introduce those ideas that grab hold of your attention, those moments that make your eyes grow big, those experiences that might very well lead to a stage like the one on which we're gathered tonight. We celebrate an exceptional group of men and women this evening, shedding light on the mechanisms of human memory, sparking a revolution in machine learning, sounding the alarm about an environmental crisis, making manufacturing greener, unlocking the mysteries of cancer, developing revolutionary medical technologies, better connecting the world, and steering an industry giant with purpose. Taken individually, each of this year's laureates reflects Franklin's trailblazing spirit. Taken together, they've charted a course forward for subsequent generations of scientists and inventors. Tonight, based upon the careful deliberation of their peers, they will become laureates of the Franklin Institute Awards, joining the likes of Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Marie Curie, Jane Goodall, Nikola Tesla, and Bill Gates in an exclusive community of scientists, engineers, inventors, and business leaders dating back 195 years. It's a pleasure to be here to welcome such an esteemed group into the Franklin Institute family. Before we meet our laureates, though, it's my honor to introduce the president and CEO of the Franklin Institute, Larry Dubinsky.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek. Such a pleasure to have you as our Master of Ceremonies this evening. Tonight, we have the privilege of celebrating unprecedented achievements in science, technology, engineering, and business as part of America's oldest comprehensive science and technology awards program. Congratulations to all of the 2019 laureates. As our closest friends and supporters, each of you knows well just how incredible a night like tonight is and the work that goes into making it a reality. I would like to offer my sincerest thanks to those individuals and organizations who have helped bring this event to life. First, Bank of America. As Jim mentioned earlier, they are in their 17th consecutive year as presenting sponsor, a role that they have committed to through our 200th anniversary in 2024. Their support is a testament to their commitment to inspire the innovators and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. Special thanks to Philadelphia Market President Jim Dever, to Managing Director for U.S. Trust and Franklin Institute Trustee Rob McMiniman, and to Senior Vice President Debbie O'Brien for their tireless support. I would also like to thank our lead supporting sponsor, Aqua America, our Awards Week sponsor, FS Investments, and the associate sponsors of tonight's evening, the Danaher Lynch Foundation, I apologize, and the Morale Family Foundation. Tom, I apologize for butchering that name there. No. The DHL Family Foundation. No, thank you, Tom, and your family. The insight, encouragement, and generosity of the Institute's Board of Trustees, so many of whom are joining us tonight, are key to the Institute's success. To each of you, please know how incredibly grateful we are for all that you do. My sincere thanks also to our extraordinary event leadership, Co-Chair and Institute Trustee Chris Franklin, Co-Chair Linda Haftor, Vice Chair Mimi Greenlee, and our Friends Committee and Awards Corporate Committee. Thanks to your dedication, we had another record-breaking year of funds raised, funds that directly support free and reduced admission for 170,000 school children each year. Finally, my thanks to all of you for taking part in tonight's festivities. Your commitment is at the heart of our ability to reach more than 1 million people annually here in this historic building and in the Nicholas and Athena Karabatz Pavilion, across the Philadelphia region and around the globe. Over the past 195 years, people have come to expect great things from the Franklin Institute. With 5 years to go until we turn 200, we have monumental changes planned for this building and for the Institute's experience overall. I'm excited to share more about our vision for the future with you tonight. Please enjoy. For 195 years, the Franklin Institute has defined what it means to be a science center. A science center is a place for learning and for discovery. A science center is about the spirit of invention and entrepreneurship. A science center evolves with the times, meeting science and technology where they are, bringing people together to answer difficult questions, to innovate and imagine what tomorrow might hold. Since its founding, the Franklin Institute has paid tribute to our namesake, Benjamin Franklin, by being all of these things and more. In its first century, the Institute offered training in mechanics, drafting, and engineering, while promoting science and invention. In 1934, we opened as the Wonderland of Science. Now, as we near our 200th anniversary in 2024, we are planning dramatic changes to the building and to the visitor experience that will give new meaning to the word wonder. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to push boundaries, to reimagine what we can do within our hallowed walls, and to rethink the role of traditional exhibitions. In December, the Board of Trustees approved a new master plan for the Institute, a plan that promises to redefine what a science center is and does, rethinking the use of space and the journey visitors take. The reimagined Institute experience begins in a seamless and intuitive ground-level welcome center. An impactful architectural redesign directs visitors up a new monumental staircase and elevator to the expansive sky-lit experiential atrium. A bright and lively town square, 15,000 light-filled square feet, feature art installations that loom above. Soaring drones and robotic vehicles and live science demonstrations fill the air in what promises to become one of the most iconic destinations in Philadelphia. Head out to a reinvigorated science park. Delve into the history of innovation and entrepreneurship and the treasures of the Franklin Institute curatorial experience. From the atrium, visitors enter a sprawling world of interpretive galleries with 6 new transformative exhibition experiences. Human 2.0. Unlock the potential of the human body. Advanced machines and robotics. Engage with inspired and complex computerized creations. Space. Consider the possibilities and perils of a future beyond Earth. Computer science and information technology. Delve into the processing and data that drive the 21st century. The built environment. Explore the complexities of a human-engineered world. Earth systems. Connect Earth's ecosystem to the human story. Each promises to build science knowledge, to increase 21st century skills, to shape the STEM workforce of tomorrow, and most importantly, to wow. As the most visited museum in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, our goal is clear. The Franklin Institute will continue to answer the question, what is a science center? By redefining the science center entirely. On the eve of our next century, we are ready to reach tomorrow today by transforming the way we educate, communicate, and engage. I hope you will join us on this journey.
Thank you, Larry. How exciting to be part of the Franklin Institute as we work to reimagine our visitor and exhibition experience to inspire future generations of STEM learners, STEM leaders. 41 years into my tenure at the Institute, I'm still deeply appreciative for the exceptional network of colleagues and supporters the Institute brings together. Working to inspire a passion for learning about science and technology, they, like me, take inspiration from our namesake, Benjamin Franklin, and the achievements of leading scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs like those gathered here tonight. Let's meet this year's award winners. Gene Likens is the nature enthusiast, adventurer, and environmental scientist who headed the longest-running ecosystem study in the world. But he's best known as the researcher who uncovered an epic environmental crisis which dominated US headlines for more than a decade.
If you remember the 1970s and 80s, chances are you also remember the environmental crisis that dominated global headlines at that time. This is the story of its rapid rise, its spectacular fall, and the scientist behind it all.
My father was a school teacher and my mother was a homemaker, as they were called then. And I lived in a log cabin. And we were very poor, but we didn't know it because we had plenty of food to eat, living on a farm and had a happy environment. So I grew up being very close to the land, being connected to the land from the very earliest memories that I have.
Though he grew up fascinated by nature, first, Likens wanted nothing more than to knock one out of the park.
I remember it was American Legion game. I struck out 12 batters. I walked 12 batters and lost the game.
Playing just 2 years in the Kansas Rookie Leagues, Likens decided there was more to life than baseball. After earning a PhD in zoology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Likens returned to his nature-loving roots and began researching ecosystems. To help with this, in 1963, the U.S. Forest Service granted Likens and his colleagues a playground of sorts, on a site that would host the longest-running ecosystem study in history, a large swath of experimental forest in the White Mountains of New Hampshire containing the Hubbard Brook watershed.
A watershed is an area of land where water from rain or snow collects and drains into a common outlet. Here, rainwater falls onto the slopes of the Delaware Valley and drains into the river below. Complex ecosystems exist within the bounds of watersheds, and the water plays a very special role. It's these ecosystems that Likens and his team set out to study at Hubbard Brook. They analyzed waters flowing both into and out of the watershed. They found something quite unexpected.
So the very first sample of rain that we collected in July of 1963 was about 100 times more acidic than we thought it should be. 100 times.
Intrigued, Likens set up rain analysis stations in the most remote places on Earth. Among these were southern Chile, the tip of Africa, and an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, accessible only by a months-long journey by ship. The studies ran for 10 years and concluded that the rainwater at Hubbard was actually, in some cases, 1,000 times more acidic than rainwater in places unaffected by people.
Likens' theory went like this. Burgeoning industry across the Midwest released pollutants into the air, like sulfur dioxide. These gases would react with water vapor in the atmosphere to form strong acids, which could travel great distances before falling again as rain hundreds of miles from the source.
To test the theory, Likens boarded a small aircraft and literally chased plumes of factory emissions across the eastern U.S., taking samples by holding a collector out an open window. In the end, the evidence was clear. Burning fossil fuels had made acid rain a serious environmental problem in North America.
And my life has never been the same since.
Acid rain took the public by storm. The average person could see its damage without a microscope and a PhD. News reports pointed to cemetery headstones dated prior to and after the Industrial Revolution, showing the same extent of weathering. Art, buildings, bridges, our modern infrastructure bore the scars of acid rain. Its devastating effects extended to ecosystems, killing plant life and freshwater fish. The news traveled all the way to the top.
I was asked in the fall of 1983 to lead a small delegation to brief President Reagan and the full cabinet about the issue of acid rain. So we did that. We had a full hour, and I think it's the first time that certainly an environmental issue has been dealt with that way by the full cabinet and the president.
7 years later, Congress took action. The 1990 amendments to the Clean Air Act addressed the problem by sharply limiting the amount of sulfur dioxide allowed in emissions. The regulations vastly improved the outlook for the U.S. As for Likens, he's enjoyed an experience almost unheard of in the scientific community. His insight revealed a hidden crisis, and his direct advocacy helped bring sweeping change that made our world safer and healthier.
As I often say to students, I don't ever remember in my adult life waking up dreading going to work. I wake up looking forward to do my job because it's not work, it's what I love.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Earth and Environmental Science, Gene E. Likens. Nothing in the universe is faster than light, yet Eli Yablonovich found a way to trap it. His discoveries improved solar panels, cell phones, and telecommunications, clearing the way for a new blazingly fast cellular data network that promises to connect us like never before.
At 5 years old, Eli Yablonovich fell down the stairs, rolled out his front door onto the street, straight into the path of a snarling dog. He was rescued by a neighbor who took young Eli into his home and calmed him with a radio.
So I said, well, how can this box be talking? And he was a wise guy. He says, oh, there are little people inside the radio. And so when he looked away, I crawled behind the radio. And I looked inside, and all I saw there and felt was the warm glow of the vacuum tubes. And I said, that man was lying to me. And one day I'm going to figure this out.
Believe it or not, this childhood tumble was a big moment for humankind, because this is the moment Eli Yablonovich first resolved to be curious.
I love reading about things that have happened in the past and try to guess what will happen in the future.
History will always keep you guessing. In fact, during World War II, when Yablanovich's Polish father and Russian mother were sent to Siberia, they never fathomed their escape to US-occupied Vienna, where Yablonovich was born in a refugee camp, would lead to a breakthrough idea for how we can capture light.
We look out the window, and so light is everywhere around us. It's part of our physiology, it's part of us. So it has a big impact everywhere.
And in the 1980s, researchers had big plans for light. That is, lasers seemed poised to power a new age of optical communication. But there was a problem. In a laser, light passes through materials that help the photons move in a straight line. But the process wasn't perfect.
You can imagine that light moving through many materials looks like this ball going into a Plinko board. Drop it in one end, and it bounces around from atom to atom before coming out the other end. Early lasers were impractical because so many photons bounced away from the atoms.
As a researcher at Bell Labs in New Jersey, Jablonovich had a wild idea. He thought he could trap light.
Jablonovich imagined a material whose atoms were arranged in such a way that they'd channel escaping light back to the laser beam. Think of a Plinko board with guides instead of pegs. No matter which direction the photons enter, the structure would always direct the light back to the beam, wasting almost no energy. He called the structure a photonic crystal.
This made Jablonovich a star in the physics community. With photonic crystals, he was able to improve solar panels by trapping light, giving panels extra time to convert it to electricity. New fiber optic cables made from photonic crystal materials can vastly improve how the laser light within the cable carries information. This means new data networks being built now will be capable of connecting us like never before. Vast amounts of data will be exchanged almost instantly. New ways to digitally collaborate will spawn new business models. Autonomous cars will navigate more safely, and new robotic surgeries and virtual medicine will become possible. Jablonovich's career is studded with innovation. He's founded 4 technology companies. One of them shrunk the size of cell phone antennas and sold nearly 2 billion units to the mobile industry.
It's kind of mind-boggling, and I was very proud of that, because what it meant, if you sell 2 billion of anything, that means a good fraction of the human race is carrying that technology around with them.
Big discoveries have the power to forge connections. If Jablonovich's story had gone differently, we may never have become so connected. If a 5-year-old kid hadn't questioned whether little men were really living inside a radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Electrical Engineering, Eli Jablonovich. Benjamin Franklin once said, "An autobiography usually reveals nothing bad about its writer, except his memory." World-renowned memory scientist Marcia Johnson might even agree. Her groundbreaking research revolutionizes our understanding of memory and reveals that when recalling our experiences, we all make mistakes.
As a college student, Marcia Johnson remembered a family trip when she was 5 years old and the car had a flat tire. Johnson's father headed out on foot to get it repaired.
It was during a drought in California in the Central Valley. It was very hot. My sister was very uncomfortable. Finally, she took a couple of pop bottles and walked up the road to a farmhouse to ask for water. And the woman in the farmhouse invited her in and filled these pop bottles that she had with water. And then my sister came back and we drank the water. And I remember feeling very guilty that we didn't save any for my father. It was so vivid and it was emotional.
The problem is, most of it never happened. Her family explained there'd been no farmhouse, no woman, and no water. The revelation left Johnson wondering, how was this possible? First, there's nothing wrong with Johnson's memory. She's now Sterling Professor Emerita of Psychology at Yale and one of the leading memory researchers in the world. When it comes to her flat tire memory, she's just like the rest of us.
We all have false memories, yes.
It's one of the many fascinating mysteries she's explored in more than 40 years of research at the State University of New York at Stony Brook, Princeton, and Yale. Johnson assembled a theory of memory that reimagined traditional thinking and forever deepened our understanding of what it means to remember.
In the 1970s,
Ideas about memory emphasized storing and retrieving the information derived from what we perceive. Most research focused on the number of words, pictures, or ideas that people remembered. But Johnson recognized that remembering information alone did not ensure accuracy. Identifying where the memory came from was important, since memories don't typically come with a source label.
So the question becomes,
how is it that we aren't just totally confused all the time? Right? How do we tell the products of our perception from the products of our imagination?
The answer was a foundational idea called source monitoring. Put simply, when information comes to mind, unconscious processes evaluate its features. For example, memories from what we perceive typically have more vivid details than memories from imagination. So you'd usually be correct to think a vivid memory was something you perceived. But sometimes, if a memory from imagination is just as vivid, those unconscious processes can label the memory as an event that happened in real life. And that's exactly what happened with Johnson's flat tire memory. The idea that we can confuse the sources of our memories was brand new, and decades of rigorous lab testing shed light on fascinating implications, like this one.
If you think about something in another person's voice, you're later more likely to claim that they said what you only thought.
In other words, memory of another person's voice is one of the features used to distinguish what you heard from your own thoughts. If a memory of an idea doesn't include the speaker's voice, you might accidentally plagiarize it, thinking their idea is your own.
Johnson's research offers a path for understanding changes in cognition as we age, as well as hallucinations, confabulations, and delusions. And law enforcement experts frequently cite Johnson's research in cases relying on the credibility of eyewitness testimony. Her trailblazing work is full of intriguing lessons about our relationship with memory and profoundly deepens our understanding of human cognition. After decades of rigorous research in the lab, Johnson has one piece of advice for all of us.
Write it down. That's the memory expert's answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Computer and Cognitive Science, Marcia K. Johnson. In this modern age, technology is always close by. John Rogers is closing the gap even further with a revolution in wearable medical devices. His technology is already redesigning hospital rooms and promising to improve the patient experience all around the world.
In his lab at Northwestern University, John Rogers is at first unassuming in a blue-collared shirt. But you quickly get the sense he's hiding something. An unbuttoned collar here, a rolled-up sleeve there. Over the course of an hour, he reveals he's secretly covered with advanced technology, like a bioelectronic Batman. But these aren't movie props. They're the earliest examples of a major technological leap, a game-changing breakthrough in wearable and implantable devices poised to redesign hospital rooms, eliminate some surgeries, replace pacemakers, and even interface with the human brain.
My father has a PhD in physics and spent his career as a geophysicist. And then my mother is a creative writer, so she's a widely published poet whose emphasis areas and topics tend to be about the natural world.
For Rogers, growing up in Houston influenced by science and art provided a certain perspective, an eye for function and appreciation for possibility. Years later, as a researcher at Harvard, he quickly grasped the importance of materials science.
Sort of surrounded in materials and materials innovations.
The field's blend of physics, chemistry, and engineering is responsible for incredible things. For example, Rogers once worked on flexible digital displays that roll up like newspapers. And in fact, when several neuroscientists approached him about this work, Rogers began the research that would change the course of his career.
And they said, have you ever thought about taking your flexible electronics and putting it on a brain? We'd like to be able to map neural activity.
Electrically mapping the surface of the brain could lead to major breakthroughs in neuroscience, but to do it, you'd need to cover the brain in dense electric circuitry. Rigid silicon microchips just wouldn't work.
This is a very powerful technology, but if you take a look at it, it's built on a substrate that more or less has the properties of a plate of glass.
And the human brain is soft, curved, and dynamic. A fragile, inflexible silicon chip is simply impractical. But Rogers leaned on his knowledge of chemistry and physics to find a way. The result was a novel, flexible electronic technology that enabled the creation of advanced bioelectronic devices with seemingly limitless applications.
So this particular device is designed to go on the chest of a neonate, in particular premature baby.
This heart monitor consists of electronics layered into special polymers. They stretch, flex, twist, and integrate with the human body. The heart monitor adheres to skin using atomic forces instead of irritating adhesives. It captures EKG signals and sends the data to a smartphone or tablet. And it works without batteries. A pad beneath the mattress broadcasts harmless radio waves that the device uses to harvest electricity from the air. This invention alone replaces bulky monitors, wires, and electric leads for the most fragile of patients. But there's more. Another device encases the heart like shrink wrap, stretching and compressing with the heartbeat. It can detect an arrhythmia and correct it before a heart attack occurs. Engineered to last an astonishing 500 years inside the conditions of the human body, it has the potential to replace common pacemakers and eliminate replacement surgeries. The list goes on. There's Rogers' Sweat Analyzer Patch, capable of detecting hydration levels and electrolyte loss. It received a major commercial launch in December of 2018 in partnership with Gatorade. And finally, working with the cosmetic company L'Oreal, Rogers invented a battery-free ultraviolet dose detector so small you can wear it on your fingernail to gauge your sun exposure. Rogers' device is battery-free and powered by the very UV light it detects. In science, the most powerful new discoveries alter our surroundings, create new opportunities, and change lives for the better. Rogers' technology is doing this right now for cardiac patients, sufferers of brain damage, and all the others who stand to benefit from Rogers' innovations. The wearable revolution has just begun.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Materials Engineering, John A. Rogers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce a longtime passionate supporter of the awards program, Dr. Donald Morell, Chair of the Institute's Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Derek, and good evening. On behalf of the trustees of the Franklin Institute, it is my pleasure to welcome you here tonight to honor the 2019 Benjamin Franklin and Bauer laureates. The Franklin Institute Awards program is only made possible thanks to the hard work of our dedicated selection committees. The Committee on the Science and the Arts, chaired by Professor C.J. Taylor of the University of Pennsylvania. The Bauer Business Award Selection Committee, chaired by Professor Michael Useem of the Wharton School. And the International Selection Committee for the Bauer Award for Achievement in Science, chaired by Board Trustee Dr. Paul Offit of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. It is due to their diligence and their commitment to a selection process that can take years to complete that we are here tonight to celebrate the individuals on stage. Please join me in thanking them and all of our committee members for their dedication and supervision of a process for tonight's awards program. We're also fortunate to be joined this evening by some of our past laureates and honored to welcome them back to the Franklin Institute. I would now ask them to stand so that we can recognize them. Tonight, we recognize the power of science to transform our lives and our futures. In 2024, the Institute begins its third century. Last year, Larry and I spoke about the vision underway and the work of the board and staff to reimagine and enrich the visitor experience. All of us focused on the growth of the Institute are proud to give you a glimpse of that future this evening. With your continued support, great things are ahead for the Institute as we continue to educate, advocate for, and highlight the power of science and technology to better lives everywhere. This work could not be more timely. As a nation, we are not producing enough scientists and engineers to meet our economic needs. Many who do graduate in the STEM fields and research quickly grow discouraged by the difficulties and challenges of building a research career in a funding-constrained environment. But we have the opportunity to change this. Every day, we work on our mission to honor the legacy of Benjamin Franklin through inspiring a passion for learning about science and technology. And most importantly, to unleash the inspiration, the creativity, and the imaginations of those who are fortunate enough to visit the Institute. Robert Frost famously once wrote, "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled." And that has made all the difference. In recognizing your accomplishments, we honor those who chose a road less traveled to unlock discoveries of profound importance and significance for us all. Congratulations again to our class of laureates and to the remarkable work that you have done. And thank you to everyone here who has made this evening possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Have you all been following the news about the black hole that was shown the image for the first time yesterday? Miraculous, wasn't it? Yeah, really incredible. But that does open the door for a joke I heard about that, if you'll indulge me. A star walks into a black hole, but it doesn't seem fazed. The black hole says to the star, "Sir, I'm afraid you don't understand the gravity of the situation." Yeah? No? Okay. I'm here all week. That's okay. Thank you anyway. That's all right. No pity clapping. So now let's learn more about the work of 4 more of our distinguished laureates. Cosmetics, detergents, fuels, and more. The chemical manufacturing industry fills our lives with the products of modern civilization. With one of the most disruptive breakthroughs in science history, Francis Arnold has given chemicals, as well as the world, a brand new reason to react.
In chemistry, a catalyst is a mover of molecules, a substance that potentially triggers an unstoppable reaction. Francis Arnold is a catalyst. She's also unstoppable. With boundless energy, Arnold is out there, reshaping major industries, using, of all things, the building blocks of life. Arnold grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, refusing to conform to expectations. In high school, she cut classes to hitchhike to a war protest and work as a cocktail waitress at 2 jazz clubs while still underage. At just 17, Arnold left home and earned a living as possibly the youngest female yellow cab driver in Pittsburgh. Soon she applied to Princeton with subpar high school grades, but nearly perfect standardized test scores. A creative essay about her disinterest in traditional high school classwork tipped the scales, and Arnold got accepted.
Some people accuse me of practicing chemistry without a license. But I think chemistry belongs to whoever does it.
Belonging or not, years later, as a new assistant professor at Caltech with a PhD in chemical engineering, Arnold began toying with a new kind of chemistry. An idea with the potential to change how we make detergents, cosmetics, fuels, and the pharmaceuticals that save and prolong our lives. The $4 trillion chemical manufacturing industry faces a fundamental challenge. Making complex chemicals like some life-saving pharmaceuticals can take many steps, using toxic metals and solvents. In commercial manufacturing scenarios, with production volumes serving billions of consumers, this means inefficiencies, environmental impacts, and enormous costs to manufacturers.
Many people are trying to figure out how could I make this same complicated molecule that will treat a disease, but with a simple one-step process in water.
Even in the late 1980s, Arnold realized the consequences of such a discovery would resonate worldwide. It meant cheaper, greener commercial chemistry, and she had a starting point: biology.
Your body is creating complex, life-saving chemicals in a single step right now using substances called enzymes. If you had the right, precisely designed enzyme, you could make a life-saving drug from a more common chemical in a single stroke. But the complexity of enzymes makes them virtually impossible for chemists to make. Arnold took a page from nature's playbook.
Nature doesn't design, nature evolves.
DNA evolved over billions of years to make purposeful enzymes. So Arnold pressed forward with an ambitious idea: to harness the creative powers of evolution itself. Bombarded by cynicism from colleagues, Arnold shut herself away and persisted in the quiet of her lab. She added mutations into bacterial DNA and selectively bred the bacteria, encouraging them to evolve to produce complex, purposeful enzymes that made new types of chemistry possible. In 1993, she announced her success. Her critics were stunned. Bypassing billion-year timescales, Arnold's method, called directed evolution, produces enzymes that make complex drugs easy to mass manufacture, that make detergents and other essential products cheaper and better, and that even produce renewable liquid fuels for airplanes and diesel trucks. Humankind now has a new set of tools that open the door to a greener, more capable, and less costly era of chemical manufacturing. An achievement with global implications and the power to affect billions. After decades of breakthroughs in directed evolution, in 2018, Arnold became the 5th woman in history to receive the Nobel Prize in Chemistry.
I enjoy what I do. I work with brilliant young people every day whose lives are just starting out. And I'm blessed to have the ability to share their lives with them. When a student comes to my office and says, "Look what I found, look what I discovered," it's what it's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Bauer Award and Prize for Achievement in Science, Frances H. Arnold. When John Hopfield began thinking about the physics behind the human brain, he discovered a technology that would strongly influence a new class of devices that are changing the world right now: machines that learn on their own.
This computer-generated robot person has digital limbs, but no operating instructions for them. It fills the hours trying, failing, remembering, and trying again. The robot teaches itself to walk, using artificial neural networks modeled after our own. This game-changing technology is called machine learning. And it's all highly influenced by one physicist's unlikely and innovative research into the physics of the human brain. In 1933, physicist John Joseph Hopfield may have considered that none of his 5 children had taken to physics before naming his 6th child, John Joseph Hopfield.
That my parents had a very quantitative view of the world.
But despite the encouragements of his parents, both physicists, the younger Hopfield found his high school physics teacher less than inspiring and gravitated toward chemistry instead. He presented both options to his college advisor, who simply picked up his pen and crossed out chemistry.
And I became a physicist.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened.
That advisor, a friend of famous physicist John Joseph Hopfield. But physics alone could never contain the younger Hopfield. With a PhD from Cornell, he worked in solid-state physics until 1970, when he unprecedentedly ventured into the biology department.
When you look at biology from the point of view of a physicist, biology was miraculous.
After rising to prominence with a groundbreaking theory that shed light upon the infinitely complex physical mechanics in DNA, he became determined to unravel a bigger mystery: the physics behind the human brain.
What fascinates me most is still this question of how mind comes from machine.
Hopfield began his research thinking about memory.
Say I have a friend who's tall, energetic, and really loves space. Someone describing my friend could mention just 1 or 2 of these things, yet somehow my brain can fill in the blanks and call up Derek Pitts.
Hey, where am I?
In my brain.
Huh. Sort of feels familiar.
Hopfield wondered how a network of neurons could recall a full memory with only partial information. His groundbreaking solution is called a Hopfield network. Think of it as holiday lights in a net, where the individual lights can either be on or off. In this case, the memory being recalled is your cat.
Now, should you manually activate and deactivate random lights, scrambling the memory like this, the network can still recall the original as long as some of the memory is still there. That is, if you don't scramble the picture too much. A single Hopfield network can hold multiple memories that behave the same way, recalling a full memory with partial information. Hopfield's concepts from the 1980s were astoundingly original, and they inspired the machine learning neural networks that are changing the world right now. Your face-detecting phone recalls your face despite the bad angle or poor lighting. Self-driving cars can access the decision to step on the brakes with only small hints about the environment. And with these ideas, real robots learn to walk, in part by storing memories of movements that work, then retrieving those memories from only partial cues. From physicist to professor of molecular biology, Hopfield seems to walk a winding road. But in the end, he's never changed direction.
I never really considered seriously being other than a scientist or engineer. They were the ones who understood the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Physics, John J. Hopfield. From modest beginnings in conservative India, Indra Nooyi defied the odds and rose to the top of PepsiCo, transforming one of the most recognizable brands in the world into a global provider of healthy foods. Nooyi's outstanding leadership gave PepsiCo purpose.
In the early 1970s, on a small stage tucked into the conservative Indian streets of Madras, electric guitars crunch out the chords to hits from the US and UK. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Clapton, Cream. The band is recognized citywide, not for its music, but for the same reason chaperones wait to take its guitarist straight home after the set. Because Indra Nooyi was a young woman, and she wasn't letting India stop her.
I used to climb trees, I used to scrape my knees, I played in a rock band, I played women's cricket. I have no idea how my parents allowed me to do it, but I was the son they never had until they had the son. So I was a rebel in every which way. So in South Indian Brahmin families, you do three things. You respect your elders, you study hard and get good grades, and then you get married at age 18 if you're a girl. Those are the three things you did. The studying hard was fine, respecting elders was fine, getting married at 18 was just not fine.
Nooyi went to college instead, majoring in chemistry, physics, and math before becoming interested in business management. Here she beat the odds, getting accepted to a university with only 10 seats for women because there were only 10 women's dorm rooms.
For a woman to get into business school was like getting a Nobel Prize.
After graduation, Nooyi joined Johnson & Johnson in India as the product manager in charge of launching a new line of feminine products. It was an impossible position. Indian laws banned any form of advertisement for women's products. Stores couldn't even put them on the shelves. After a year, Nooyi needed a change of pace.
You know, in the late 70s, the US was everybody's hope and dream to come to.
Intrigued by an article about the Yale University School of Management, Nooyi applied, and to her surprise, was accepted with a partial scholarship. But she had virtually no money, and at the time, India permitted its citizens to take only $500 beyond its borders, total, per person, for a lifetime.
I had to buy winter clothes and used up $200 or $300 of it right there.
She supported herself in the US on minimum wage jobs, and with no suit, wore her sari to interviews with high-powered firms. In 1994, Nui was so highly sought after that Jack Welch from General Electric went up against PepsiCo in a bid for her. When Welch told PepsiCo CEO Wayne Calloway that Nui had accepted GE's offer, Nui got a humbling phone call from Calloway asking her to reconsider.
The humility with which he talked to me touched me. And at that moment I said, Wayne, I'm joining PepsiCo.
Nui was an instant success. Sensing a consumer shift toward healthy products, Nui helped orchestrate a series of headline-grabbing mergers that helped PepsiCo shift its business model away from unhealthy food choices. The strategy was so successful, the board named her CEO in 2006. It was the right choice. Just 2 years later, in 2008, she saw the company safely through the financial crisis. That same year, Forbes named her the third most powerful woman in the world. With Nui in charge, PepsiCo expanded globally into a provider of healthy food options. Under her, the reimagined company's sales grew by 80%, almost tripling its annual net profit from $2.7 billion to $6.5 billion.
I mean, if I told you that it was smooth sailing all the way, I'd be lying. Lots of challenges, people questioning what my background was, why should I even be in PepsiCo in such a senior position, why I was so outspoken, and what's with this woman, you know, a lot of stuff like that. But I didn't care about that. I was getting paid to do a job, and I was going to do the job. And I was going to do it better than anybody else. That's the end of it.
After more than 2 decades of unrivaled success, Nui stepped down as CEO in 2018. The PepsiCo she leaves behind flickers with the flame of the old Madras rock guitarist. Today, more women occupied senior positions than ever before. On-site daycare centers bring employees closer to their families. And most important to Nui, with new community outreach and environmental programs, PepsiCo has purpose.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Bauer Award for Business Leadership, Indra K. Nui. Cancer is a leading cause of death worldwide, and Jim Allison is determined to stop it. Pursuing a type of anti-tumor research once regarded as fringe science, Allison proved that the key to a cure for many types of cancer resides within each one of us.
2 weeks before her wedding, Sharon Belvin visited the doctor for what she thought was bronchitis. She left with a diagnosis of stage 4 melanoma. Chemotherapy failed. With 31 tumors in her lungs, a mass in her brain, and lesions covering her skin, Sharon was preparing for hospice at just 22 years old. And that's when she met Jim Allison.
My dad was a country doctor. In the old days, we did house calls. He got paid in tacos a lot.
For immunologist James Allison, if the call of medicine came early in life, he wasn't listening yet.
I used to like to make bombs, actually. That's more common in scientists than you might actually think.
He and I made nitroglycerin.
You could fill them with match heads and see how they went.
I actually shot my sister with a rocket launcher a few times.
And I stole the sodium, threw it into the toilet, and blew the toilet off the wall.
Today, the Nobel Prize winner is still known for his explosive appearances, like the times he's played harmonica on stage with Willie Nelson, once in front of 70,000 screaming fans.
Well, and I was supposed to play a solo and roll me up and smoke me when I die. When I went out and I blew the first note, I was so nervous.
But life was quieter once. The 1970s found the young, ambitious immunologist at MD Anderson Cancer Center siding with a fringe group of medical researchers widely derided for an idea with roots in the late 1800s. When a New York surgeon noticed that patients who developed infections from tumor surgery often went into full remission. Those who didn't develop infections saw their cancer return. Allison believed that the immune system was the key to curing cancer.
As your 37 trillion cells divide, mistakes are bound to happen. This means your body is accidentally producing cancer cells right now. But thankfully, the immune system's T cells eliminate them before they grow further. Allison guessed that when tumors form, the T cells are failing to mobilize and do their job. He wanted to know why.
Because my mother died of cancer when I was about 10. And I saw my mother, she got a lot of radiation treatment, the way they just ravage, you know, your body. And one of my uncles got extensive chemotherapy. Just always thought that was horrible. The immune system ought to do something about it.
After years in the lab, Allison had a major breakthrough.
When a potential threat appears in the body, like a virus or a cancerous cell, the immune system accelerates the production of T cells to overwhelm the threat.
You need them fast if you have a virus infection, for example.
But Allison found that over time, about 4 days, the immune system naturally produces a molecule called CTLA-4 that works to apply the brakes, stopping the surge of T cell production. If a tumor never triggers the immune system, or it survives beyond 4 days, the cancer can grow unchecked. But Allison took his discovery a step further, creating an antibody to CTLA-4 that turns off the molecule, effectively disabling the brakes and allowing T cells to continue multiplying.
We just injected antibodies that would made to CTLA-4 into mice with tumors. And the earliest experiments we did, the tumors just melted away.
And once the immune system eliminated a particular type of cancer, the mice were, in a sense, immune to its recurrence. The magnitude of the discovery shook cancer research to its core. By 2005, a drug using Allison's CTLA-4 antibodies was entering trials. 22-year-old Sharon Belvin, dying from melanoma, signed on. The treatment? 4 simple injections spaced over time. The tumors initially got bigger, swelling with millions of cancer-destroying T cells. 6 months later, Sharon Belvin was completely cancer-free.
That's why we do it. Ultimately, you know, I've gotten to know her pretty well. She came to my birthday party this year. Helped celebrate.
The treatment that saved Sharon is now saving the lives of thousands. Allison's work has spurred the discovery of more immune checkpoints, lighting the way for a new generation of cancer drugs, clinical trials, and treatments. As a result, people with many devastating types of cancer seem poised to receive perhaps the greatest gift that science has to offer: a second chance at life.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome Dr. Allison's patient and friend, cancer survivor Sharon Belvin, to the stage. And the recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Life Science, James P. Allison. The 8 laureates before us have changed our world, and their work will no doubt inspire generations to come. Please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in congratulating the 2019 Franklin Institute laureates.